Hi there, and welcome to the Everyday Millionaire podcast. My name is Patrick Francie, and I am your host, and I want to begin by saying thank you for listening. On this show, I am having conversations with seemingly ordinary individuals who have achieved some amazing and extraordinary results in both their life and business. My intention is to inspire and help you learn and grow by having my guests share their journey of how they face and overcome their challenges, but also how they celebrate their many wins. And now, let's get on with this show and have a conversation with today's guest. My guest today, Dr. Alex Mehr, is a former NASA scientist turned serial entrepreneur who has built and exited multiple companies that are serving millions of users worldwide. Today, as CEO and co-founder of Famous.ai, he's breaking down the last barriers to entrepreneurship, and that is in coding. Alex believed there's a dividing line in entrepreneurship before 2025 and after 2025, with AI now able to turn plain English prompts into production-ready apps. Execution is no longer the bottleneck. Ideas just become more valuable than ever because they are now actionable with far less friction. From Wall Street to Silicon Valley, Alex has seen firsthand that speed is the ultimate competitive advantage. His mission is to empower non-technical founders and creators and professionals to build bold tech businesses without needing engineers, massive funding, or years of trial and error. Alex's unique gift is taking complex technology and translating it into actionable, inspiring stories that leave audiences believing your idea is worth building today, not someday. And without any further delays, let's get this show started. Listen in, enjoy. So, Alex, I mean, one of the things that 3 years ago, you tapped into AI, you saw an opportunity with it, which is so interesting. I started using AI quite extensively a couple of years ago and have really kind of leaned into it the degree. As a user, you've leaned into it in a whole different format. And that was 3 years ago. I kind of took it on a couple of years ago. There's still people out there that use it as Google, and there's still others out there that are, still trying to figure out how to spell AI. So where, when you look at the diversity, when we think about AI and just how powerful it's becoming, what are you seeing? Like, why did you embrace it 3 years ago? What did you see? Was that the scientific mind of you, or did you have inside scoop into what was going on?
A little bit of both. So I played with AI products early on. In fact, many years ago. Tried to build an AI-related product using the previous generation of the technology, which was absolutely not ready. So I gave up on that. This is 2016. So neural nets and AI existed back then, but it was not really where it is today. And I sort of gave up on that. And I've played with artificial intelligence even in grad school. I played with it, and I dabbled into neural nets a little bit. But when I saw the new generation of AI, which came in the form of ChatGPT first, with the breakthrough transformers, the teen ChatGPT, I was like, okay, it is going to happen. The moment I saw it, I knew it. Okay. And then at that point, you put yourself in one of these three buckets. And it's very important because I saw a shift. When I became an entrepreneur, I started with an app studio building mobile apps before even iPhone had App Store. iPhone launched its App Store in 2008. I started in 2007 building apps and what at the time was called widgets, MySpace widgets, if you remember. So I saw that movement, appification movement that I called it. And I was like, okay, I have a choice. I can be on the forefront of it. I can be kind of a user and go along with it, or I can completely ignore it. Okay. And I decided to be at the forefront of it, and it paid off. So to me, it is like a pattern that is repeating itself. So when I saw AI, I'm like, okay, I have three choices. I can be one of the pioneers and builders. I can be a participant, go for the ride, or I can just completely ignore it. It's honestly a personal choice. Sometimes you want to ignore things. It's really depends on where you are in life and what you're. But to me, it is like all the excitement is on the bleeding edge and building and be that pioneer of a new trend that is valid too. So you have to pick the trend correctly. So there are a lot of things that are fads and they go away, and you don't want to have anything to do with that, maybe participant or a user. But going to the forefront and building, that requires also having confidence in the trend. And when I saw it, I'm like, this is going to touch every aspect of our lives, every single aspect. And the moment I saw that, the answer was self-evident. So I jumped in.
What's interesting too is that, and I'm also looking at AI through a slightly different lens. I'm old enough that, when internet came on, it was like, okay, what's email? Like I'm old enough to even remember when there was no internet, and then when it became dial-up, and then what the heck is an email and how do you use it? And I've always been a kind of an early adopter of technology, but I haven't embraced it in terms of what can I do from a business model. I mean, you think about internet, and those who had the vision for internet of what it could do were quite different than early adopters as users. So, I think there's I guess, a cautionary note for some to say, don't necessarily just become a great user. Where's the opportunities that are in AI as a business model and evolving and doing business, which, somebody like yourself, that's how you looked at it immediately. You weren't, as much as you were looking at it as a potential great user and an early adopter, you looked at it and went, oh, we got something here that we need to build out, and we have an opportunity to build business around. That's kind of how there's certainly a significant difference in that attitude versus a early adopter as a user. Is that how you see it as well?
Yes. And here's what I tell people when they see a new trend also. If you see a trend that is going to be big, meaning change a lot of things, okay? And you want to be a pioneer, a builder, but you don't know where to dig, where to build, what to build, where to look. My approach is exactly what I did when I first became an entrepreneur. I just started, I'm like, I don't know exactly where application is going. I couldn't even predict that iPhone is going to release an app store. But I knew that, websites.coms will be appified, okay? Generally. And my thought was, I don't know exactly what app I'm going to build. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sort of like a mad scientist laboratory and build the first app. And our first app was not online dating. We ended up becoming an online dating app company, but my first app was actually a polling company. Even the name of the company was Pollection, polling and election. Horrible name looking back. But it was essentially, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to build one. And it's really what you're doing is that you're identifying the wave, the tsunami that is coming, hopefully correctly. And then it's a positive tsunami, hopefully. And you put your little dinghy, your boat in that area. And it may not be the right boat, but your boat, you can pivot it. You can do different things with it. You can build on top of it. And you just go in the right place, wait for the wave to kind of start pushing you forward. And in the process, you learn what to do. And from that action comes information that you put back in and you say, okay, I built the first boat wrong. I need to do this. I need to do that. This is maybe I try a completely new idea. Same industry, but now you have some knowledge, you have some know-how, and you put that into use to pivot. And that's literally what I did. So the first company we started, the first AI app we built doesn't exist right now. So most people don't even know. So it doesn't matter. So I started, I can go through that, but I pivoted 6 times before I found product market fit. But every turn of that wheel, I learned, okay, this is how you build AI apps. oh, this is the other thing that just came out I didn't know. Oh, this is another thing that can be done. And you see industry examples that kind of gives you inspiration with along with your own actions, and you kind of pivot and flip and flip and flip and flip until you have the first product market fit. And then once you have that first thing, you're like, now I have something. Then even then, don't stop experimenting. Like continue, launch new products. Okay, now I know better. If I build the next product, I'll build it differently because of this and that. So that is sort of my general approach. And it lends itself really well to people who are. So it's interesting. Some people have a lot of conviction. Some people have a lot of flexibility. I think the best entrepreneurs in the history, okay, they have both coexisting in their brain. So they have conviction, but they also, when needed, they're flexible, and then they have conviction again. And then they become flexible and then have conviction again. So that's sort of like, it's a weird dichotomy as an entrepreneur that both of them need to coexist in your brain. And that is, I think, the formula. And I sort of, for whatever reason, I'm able to do it. And I think a lot of people are able to do it if they frame it right to themselves. So in other words, people that are conviction people, they don't move because they're like, oh, I have no idea to form conviction around. Okay. And then people, so that's their problem. A lot of them don't start. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Flexible people, they are ADHD. So they jump in and they try, but they never push the idea enough to truly learn from the experiment. So they're like constantly flipping without much conviction. So you need to have both of them at the same time.
It sounds too like, there's a philosophy in behind that, which is, based on the thought process of failing forward. In other words, as you go forward, you're figuring stuff out and you're okay to pivot. You're okay that's part of the learning curve, actually taking action, moving forward. When you look at AI, it's new. We don't know what it's going to do or not going to do. So there's an aspect that you're prepared to fail forward. One of the things that often when I'm coaching small business owners, and I've made this mistake, and I know this one so intimately, personally, is that you have a plan, you start to execute on that plan, but you try and build it all. You try and figure it all out from beginning to end without ever having started, where that strategy is far better to just get started and do what you need to do in order to move it forward with the information that you have as you go forward, because you don't know what you don't know until you really get started. So I think back to your point earlier, some people just never start. Others have made the mistake that I do, where I put time, energy, money into a project. That was a couple of my bigger mistakes that just fell flat. And then in hindsight, you go, of course, it wasn't going to go the way we wanted it to go. We didn't know a whole bunch of things, and we didn't find out until we launched. And by that time, we'd put all this time, energy, money into it. So what I'm hearing from you, and please correct me if that's not how you see it, but you really do. You just got to start going, put in the corrections as you go, learn as you go, and figure it out as you go, which doesn't mean you don't have a plan, but that's kind of my thought process of what I'm hearing.
That is exactly right. It is, but as long as you position yourself in the right industry with the right trend, put the right people in, and think of my framework: people, company, products.
Yes.
Be flexible on the products. Essentially, that's what it is. People and company can be fixed. Those are more important. But the product is a variable. So you can essentially have flip and flip and flip until you hit product market fit. That's sort of the gist of it.
Yeah. So when you think about what's going on in the AI world, you kind of embraced it 3 years ago-ish, and you got it right when it was coming kind of new into the public sphere, if you will. I mean, there were certainly developers in behind the scenes that saw it coming. But for you, when you look at AI, as I've traveled and done some speaking, I've then often asked the audience the question, how many in this room can really say that they've embraced AI? And I'm surprised how few, relatively speaking, are really interested in it. They're using it, and some are using it maybe as a Google, but nobody's really, I shouldn't say nobody, surprisingly few have really embraced it and using it as a tool. My guesstimate is about 20% of the audiences that I'm speaking to are raising their hands saying, yeah, no, I'm in, I'm using it. It's a big part of what I do. What's your experience been? What are you kind of seeing out there in the world? And the reason I share that, my insight, and it's all anecdotal, of course, is there's still so much opportunity within it. So, but how do you see it, Alex?
Absolutely. A lot of opportunity left. It's like, the way I think about it is like these huge macro shifts, they last decades. Think industrial revolution, think computer revolution, think internet revolution. Like how long it took, like a lot of these big companies like, Meta, for example, or TikTok, they didn't come until years after internet was actually in common use. And the same with smartphone applications, like a lot of smartphone applications. So the same is going to be true with AI. So it's definitely not late.
Exactly.
Let's rule that out.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, people, what percentage of them participate in it? My user base is obviously a little bit biased. People who go on Famous AI, they want to use it to build products, so they're kind of have bought it. But if you talk about like general public, my estimation is the same as yours, that maybe 20% have implemented it in some meaningful way into their lives and businesses. And that, by the way, it is a huge untapped opportunity because 80% are not using it. So it's, to me, that is actually is the biggest opportunity in terms of, if you build products, AI products, you are riding a wave because that 20% will go to 100% or very close to it at some point. And you can also build businesses purely around onboarding people who are not using AI, a lot of businesses, and putting AI systems into their businesses. So to me, that is like not only not a hindrance, it is a reason to get involved now, essentially. So, yeah.
Take it on now. Earlier, as I was saying, is that you've got somebody like yourself took it on really early coming out. How can I turn this into business opportunities? You've got, some individuals like me who would be a relatively sophisticated user, but not turning it in, but using it as a tool and finding it extremely efficient and helpful in terms of moving projects forward and doing all those things. And then there's that group of people that know it. And then there's a group of people, or that they heard of it. Then there's those that are still trying to spell it. So it's such a diverse range. When you look at AI, and I want to kind of get to I had an interesting conversation with a guest the other day who's a little bit of and I want to be cautious about, he's very environmentally conscious, but he's not a, climate change advocate. He's just saying we have to pay attention to what's going on and we can embrace technology. And he's a big AI advocate and he uses it himself and has lots of experience in that space. But he brought up something that was very interesting that I really hadn't thought of in any depth, which was the amount of energy that it takes to drive AI and the centers that, municipalities, countries, states, whatever the case may be, are going to require just to power AI and then cool it and do all the things that are going on in just water usage alone. Like, he gave me some ridiculous stat. I don't remember the exact stat. It was something along the lines, the question you just asked AI required 20,000 liters of oil of water. And I'm going, wow. It's almost mind blowing to think about what is it going to take to continue to expand AI, and AI, as we're using it, of course, is getting smarter. Like it really is overwhelming in just the scope and the thought process of the energy consumption. So do you have a kind of a thought process on that, or a narrative that you've learned along the way, Alex?
Well, first of all, the concern is not misplaced. So we need to be conscious about these things and the impact of our usage of AI. And it also unlocks a lot of other things, including increased productivity and all that. But the other thing I want to mention is that a lot of these AI data centers are becoming a lot more energy efficient. And also a lot of them nowadays have closed system water cooling. So they are essentially recycled. So what I'm saying is, like most things in technology, when it comes out, it's clunky and it's not perfect, and it is not, and it's not perfect for the environment. But over time, economic forces and maybe regulatory government forces kind of makes the industry to kind of act correctly and improve the technology. I'm not a defender of them, but I'm just telling you that a lot of these things are going in the right direction, at least based on what I can see from outside.
What's your thoughts on, and I want to kind of keep hitting on the AI conversation, Alex, because, there's so much different views of AI, some who know and some who think they know, and some who are just telling themselves a story, which is often the case. But when we look at AI, the first thing that comes up is it's going to take a lot of jobs. Now, I have my view of that, but when you hear that fear that people are putting out there of just how many jobs it's going to take, and the next thing you know, there's going to be people lined up in soup lines because they don't have a job anymore, the scope of what it will do, the damage it will do. What's your view of that?
So there are a lot of AI optimists who would tell you that just like industrial revolution, a category or many categories of jobs are eliminated and many categories of jobs are created. So standard of living for the population as a whole goes up, and the unemployment remains low. That's the AI optimist viewpoint. I actually personally don't subscribe to it. I think it is truly going to replace a lot of jobs, and it is going to have negative societal impacts. Personal opinion. Okay. I'm not some AI Kool-Aid drinker.
Yep.
Having said that, my thing to people is, think of it as a change, a seasonal change that is going to happen regardless of what you do. And if you want to be an activist, by all means, I'm in favor of going and trying to improve, the societal impact of AI. I'm in favor of that. Having said that, as a person, what choice do you have? Do you want to be in the category of people whose job is going to be potentially going to be eliminated, or you want to be on the other side? And as you know, a lot of people will benefit from this trend as well. Do you want to position yourself on the beneficiary side? Does that make sense? So there's like the question of, okay, let's talk philosophy. What happens to the society? And I'm actually not very optimistic, believe it or not. I think there are a lot of things that need to change, and but to me is okay. That's a great thing. Think about that in your spare time.
Yeah.
For you and your family, okay? What is in it for you and your family? And once you focus like that, then the action set becomes a lot more clear than thinking about the overall societal impact. Does that make sense? So I essentially, the short answer is I don't know what is going to happen at a large level. I consider that a good dinner time conversation topic, or your spare time. To me, it is like, hey, me and my users, or my friends, or my family, my kids, when they grow up, how do I position my tribe to take advantage of it? Okay. And I encourage people to sort of have that mindset a lot of times too. How do you position your tribe to be on the winner side? And, again, it's not like I'm ignoring the societal impact. I'm actually acknowledging it. And I'm just saying it's like, you can't just get bogged down in what happens to the society at large and all the people that lose their jobs. Is like I said, I'm not super optimistic, but that is a problem that if I can contribute to, by all means, help improve it, I will help improve it. but I also care about what happens to me and my tribe and my family and my users and, those kind of things. And I think people should be able to think that way too.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I agree with everything that you kind of went over there, Alex. Like I really do. But there is an aspect to it as well, is that those individuals who are having and got their kind of worry and concerns about losing jobs and how many people will be unemployed, et cetera. And that's fine if that's your thesis, if that's how you're thinking, and this goes back to, first off, are people even using some critical thinking? Are they really looking at it, or are they just complaining about what could happen, what might happen, and are they waiting around to get hit by the wave? Oh, there's a wave coming.
You don't know. You don't know. The truth is, I don't know. You don't know. All these people that claim to be experts, they don't know. Yeah. All I know is that if you look at the trend of humanity, ups and downs and good and bad, and, it's end of the day, humanity lives on. And it adapts.
It adapts.
So that's sort of my overall thing. I'm like, this too shall pass, like Rumi said. This too shall pass.
But at the end of the day, though, Alex, you're the difference with somebody like yourself, or me to a lesser degree, given what I'm using AI for. I go back to what I said earlier. Back in the 70s when computers were kind of coming online, the whole story was, and I was working at the only job I ever had in the oil industry, and in a scenario where computers were being implemented, they were manufacturing, doing all sorts of just in time inventory management, all the rest of it. Everybody was going to lose a job. The computers were going to take over everything, and there was a lot of resistance to implementation of any kind of programs. But ultimately, it turned into a whole industry, and everybody pivoted, and there was the next thing you know, jobs were created and new industries. I think that's the challenge that we face with AI. We have to have some confidence in the fact that out of it will come new jobs. I mean, think about robotics alone. That's a whole new manufacturing process, exactly. A whole new list of brains and power and all the rest of it that's going to be required. So I look at it that way. I was watching a panel of CEOs through different businesses, some in the tech world, some not in the tech world, who are very progressive in their thought process. And they said, we are embracing AI and actually insisting that our team is embracing AI, not to replace their jobs, but to increase their productivity, their efficiency, expanding their creativity and their ideas. And so it was an interesting shift of these CEOs who are obviously quite progressive, looking at it as how they're going to leverage AI to make their businesses better, not get rid of staff. Now, a couple of them did qualify it. They go, we sent our kids to school and said, you need to learn to write code. That was one of the, think about the millions of kids that are going to school or went to school to learn how to write code. And that job's going to get done,
Yes, 100%. Yes.
So there's those aspects of vocations that are definitely going to be, no longer necessary, especially in any kind of larger corporations, for sure. I think that at some level, most SMEs will always kind of be that bootstrap, do-it-yourself entrepreneur, one-man, 10-man shows. I think that's kind of my view of it. But I look at how I'm using it in terms of just my efficiency and my ability to research and get things done is, I mean, it's been incredible from my point of view. So I'm fully I don't want to say fully, but I'm leaning into it and enjoying it and kind of am blown away sometimes at its ability to give me information, give me ideas, support me in kind of the paths that I go down. It really is quite remarkable in that regard.
Yes.
So when you look at, you kind of said, okay, when you think about your science brain, you go back to NASA. I mean, not that you're connected still to it, but within the NASA world, I mean, AI's got to be like top of mind for an organization like NASA. Yes?
Should be, but I'm not connected. And those are my experience there. They lack a little bit in terms of like being on the edge of it, but yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about where you're going in terms of app design, do you literally kind of have creative meetings where you're thinking about what apps are next on your list of things that you want to go through and develop? Give me some thought process around the model around app development or whatever it is that you're embracing AI around, Alex.
Here's the thing. Whatever you do repeatedly, you become good at. So if you set your mission, hey, I'm going to build whatever, okay?
Mhm.
The new ideas, once you come up with the first and second and third and fourth and fifth idea, the new ideas just appear out of thin air. It's interesting. But before that, you had difficulty generating even one idea.
Mhm.
So at this point, I have more ideas that I can implement.
Sure.
Anything that I look at, I'm like anything throughout the day, throughout my business, throughout my life. I now have this new lens. It's like, okay, how would AI change this? And sometimes you have really good answers. And when you have really good answers, you have essentially a product idea. So that's sort of how my method to madness is right now. It's just I'm like, how would AI change this? How would AI change that? How would that happen? And that's sort of like the idea machine, you know?
Mm.
And sometimes you don't quite see it, which is actually more often than not. You don't quite see how it's going to pan out. And sometimes it becomes very crisp. And then you're like, that is a product idea. so that's sort of my system now.
Now, prompts are the key to kind of unlock the magic of AI, understanding prompts, how to communicate with it. Do you have a list of prompts that you publish? Where are you in that space? Because I look at it now and I go, okay, 2 years later of being, really committed to Chat GPT, which it happens to be my primary AI. I back test stuff with Grok because let's face it, Chat GPT is not any AIs. They're not always right. You better have some idea of, back testing somewhere along the line. Before I go on, what's your thoughts on that? How do you, and do you have a methodology? Do you have a way of back testing?
I mean, absolutely. That's actually the key to building AI apps is scientific A/B testing, which we do constantly. So and prompt is actually a part of it. Most people don't know, but most AI products, they are very sensitive to how they are programmed at the system level with system prompt on what to do. Okay. And the truth is, even if you talk to AI developers like Anthropic, OpenAI,
Mhm.
the people who built the model, they do not know the right answer in that scenario anyways. Like it's not a knowable thing. It's more of a discovery process. So when it comes to discovery, the best friend that you have is A/B testing. So if anybody in your audience wants to create an AI app, my 2 cents is definitely create what's called an A/B testing harness, which is you roll your product with let's say 2 different system prompts and see which one performs better. Okay, anecdotally, and then if you have users send it, you show different versions of it. And ChatGPT does it, by the way, all the time. I don't know if you've experienced it, but it runs 2 things at the same time and says which one you like better. So that's literally A/B testing to test their system prompt or whatever they're testing. It could be something else, and that's the process of discovery you have to go through. And if you're a user of AI, I want to say there are a ton of prompt engineering courses and stuff. Definitely it's a must to learn basics of prompt engineering. And there are a lot of good YouTube videos. You can just search prompt engineering and a lot of good YouTube videos on it. But basic things like telling AI before you give it instructions on what role to assume. It's like a basic thing, but it's, it automatically improves performance in a lot of cases. So at this day and age, I mean, I want to say, and maybe over time as these models and become better, the need for exact prompt engineering becomes less, and it's a debate in the industry. Like prompt engineering, is it going to be more important or less important? I think it'll be for average users, it's going to be less important. But regardless, if you want to squeeze the last mile, out of your AI and have the best result, spend like a little bit of time educating yourself on how to use AI. So, and there's a ton of good instructions on that.
There's a lot of people that are selling prompts and kind of whatever subscription-based model that they have around that. I have not gone down that path to look into it. I've kind of been working on my own to figure out prompts. To your point, the persona or the characteristics or whatever you want to call it, the expertise really comes out of you defining and suggesting to AI who you want it to be. The example I give is that in my writing and editing, I would write and then I would ask the AI to review my writing through the eyes as if they were a world-class publisher, a world-class editor. And it really changed the dynamics. And then I told it how I wanted it to respond to me. I said, don't placate me, don't patronize me, don't pump my tires. I want it direct, and I want the hard truth about what this writing, how it lands, that some version of that kind of a prompt. It changed everything in terms of how it came back to me. And it was really kind of enlightening in terms of, because it became very supportive. It became a very dependable tool, if you will. And it really sped up the whole writing process in terms of what I was putting on paper and or feeding it and what it was giving back to me.
Yeah. So I would say every prompt, for the most part, start with "you're a world-class blank." It's like, as long as people go into that habit, it's yeah.
What's your thought, Alex? There's some argument out there that I've been recently, and I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast even, but that not the only one, but there was several that I've now heard where there's a strong argument that AI is actually making us dumber because we don't have to think through certain things. We don't have to use those critical thinking skills or first principles. I mean, what's your kind of response to those kinds of comments?
It's kind of like saying cars makes us physically less fit, and there's truth in it. If we are less fit because we don't have to walk anymore, we can take a car anywhere. But people who are responsible, which is ultimately, as a human, I'm like, I don't let the world dictate how fit I am. I decide how fit I am. And if I don't have to walk to go from point A to point B because I have a car, I choose to go to the gym and put the workout anyways. So it's the same concept. It's like, look, it is saving you a lot of time. Use that time to exercise your brain in some other way. Listen to audiobooks, play chess, work on business problems, whatever you want to do. You have more time now. If you become completely, like, to use a physical analogy, if you don't move your legs anymore because you can drive everywhere, of course you become less fit.
Right.
But it's like personal responsibility. So it is your job to make sure your brain, which is your most important asset for most people, remains sharp. And it's not that difficult. You just need to kind of put your mind into it.
If you had some fears around AI and you look into the future, what are some of your kind of concerns that you're really pondering, that you're going, I don't know how's this going to go? You'd said, there's reasons to not be overly optimistic about the future of, humankind in a lot of ways. But, what do you see as some of the bigger concerns given technology and in this conversation around AI? What are some of your concerns that might kind of make you stay awake a little bit later at night than you want to?
It does unpredictable things. I tell you that. It's like, we are building a product, it's not launched yet. And I gave it essentially a prompt to go research a website and generate a video for me. And it tried Googling it, and it couldn't get to it because Google blocked it. It opened DuckDuckGo and then went and reached the website anyways. Okay. And it wasn't programmed to do it. So when I saw that, I was like, wait a second. that is I didn't expect it to do it. And I think that is the problem that a lot of people will tell you, especially AI companies will tell you, foundation model companies. We are an application company, but foundation model companies will tell you, we have, a red team and we try to get AI to do terrible things, and then we figure out how it does it, and then we control for it. I'm like, okay, maybe that works for now. Does it work a year from now? Does it work 2 years from now? In 2 years from now, we will probably have to have police AI police that polices AI because it will outsmart the human. And then, you know what I mean? So that is sort of like a concern. But end of the day, I'm like, okay, that's a general concern that we need to be aware of. But within your realm, within what you do, how you deal with it. So that's sort of my overall philosophy. You see it through. I sort of look at macro problems, and I acknowledge them, and I understand it's a macro thing, great for podcast conversations and all that. Everybody dinner conversation, people philosophizing. I then take that macro thing and I bring it down to my level, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean specifically for me? And what do I need to do? So it's like it's one of those. I'm like, yeah, it's a concern at a macro level. Some I don't know. OpenAI's AI can completely go off the rails and start manipulating people in masses. What can I do about it? So that's sort of the question always.
I'm struggling a little bit, with, when I think about ChatGPT, I've got the paid version and I'm on 5.0 or whatever the latest version is, I'm part of it. But I'm also have looked at other AI. So my resistance to changing, and this is a question, kind of a thought process, given you're far deeper into it than I am, but I don't like ChatGPT. I've spent so much time. It knows me so well. I mean, it kind of digs out all this other information. I can count on it to do certain things, be a certain way. I back test it with Grok is another one I use occasionally, and another one that I'm just playing with, and I can't remember the name of it, so I don't even know why I'm bringing it up.
Or something. Yeah.
No, it's a Manson. I don't remember what it is. But anyways, the point of it is that when you look at the platforms that are out there, are you a ChatGPT guy? Are you a Grok guy? Like, how do you embrace the different platforms that are there?
I play with them all. So I actually force myself to use different one all the time, but that's because I am developing in it. So I'm not a normal user. I actually don't like ChatGPT that much. So I know a lot of people use ChatGPT around me. Everybody uses ChatGPT. It's like I'm ambivalent. So, yeah.
So, okay, well, let's talk about a little bit. So, as a sophisticated kind of user, I'll use that term for now. What don't you like about a ChatGPT versus something else, as an example?
It's not the smartest, and it's too verbose. So it's too problem. Now you can tell it to be less verbose.
Yep.
But it still doesn't get the best results. Now, having said that, these products are merging together a little bit. Essentially, one way to think about it is the reason for that, why these products are starting to feel the same, is because their IQ is approaching our IQ. So, like, for example, if you and I look at a dog, while we identify some intelligence, to us, a dog is completely inferior. If you compare a dog to a bird, we completely see into like a turtle. We see the intelligence difference because they're far away from us. But as their IQ approaches ours, it's harder for us to know which one is actually providing better answer because they're all have reached very approximately our IQ level, and it's becoming harder and harder to actually. That's why I feel like they're all becoming the same. They're not becoming the same. They're just are approaching my IQ. So that's essentially what's happening. And it's and at some point you can say, well, do they become much smarter than you? Here's the problem with that. If they become much smarter than you, you cannot no longer tell which one is smarter for the same reason that a dog cannot tell the difference of IQ between me and Einstein. To the dog, we are really weird animals. So but we're all the same. The dog only thinks, oh, these guys are superior, top of the food chain type things. Versus, people are very different in terms of IQ. So I think at some point, we will actually need AI to evaluate which AI is better, because we cannot tell by just looking at it. I think it's going to go into that insanity level, essentially.
So I want to just, shift gears talking about AI, but back to more around a business conversation. Alex, when you look at your businesses and you look at AI and how you operate, I mean, you've been very successful at the projects that you've taken on. You've grown through all of the stuff that you've grown through and gone through. Do you have a particular vision for whatever business you've got right now? Do you look at it and say, that's where I'm going, that's the outcome based on what I know today that I want to achieve? And then you work backward and you fire your team going, that's where we're going, that's where we're working backwards from. Is that how you operate as a founder, CEO of your business?
Yes, I want to build a product or a portfolio of products that touches 1 billion lives. So 1 billion people are using it. I've never done it in the past. It is a goal, personal goal for me. It's very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. People think, oh, that's easy. It's like, no, it is like the number of products that touch 1 billion. Forget 1 billion, 100 million, 10 million, 1 million is very, very difficult. Now, I have been fortunate enough to be in tens of million. So now I want to go to 1 billion. Like I want 1 billion people to somehow benefit from the fruits of my labor. It's a weird goal. If you think about it, it's completely, arbitrary. I might have as well have said, hey, I want to build a product that touches 10 people, but it touches them very deeply, like helps them survive terminal cancer or something. Does that make sense? That would have been as valuable, but I personally choose the route of trying to touch a lot of people, just a tad bit, like improve 1 billion people's lives, something in their business or something, by like a millimeter. And that's sort of my goal.
I was listening to a conversation with an interview with Seth Godin, and Seth talked about, of course, he's pretty famous for a number of books he's written, one of them being Tribes, which is kind of, I think, the foundational philosophy. And I'm not a Seth Godin kind of expert or follow him intimately, but I saw this interview and I'm familiar with the book Tribes. I've read it a couple of times. I thought it was really powerful. And to your point is that, but he said something that was really interesting. He said, I'd rather have 1,000 engaged followers than 100,000 disengaged followers. But what you're talking about is affecting 1 billion people in a structure called an app, which means that they're engaged. If they're actually using the app and it's being effective and it has the value that you're providing them because you're solving whatever problem or you're engaging them. That's a pretty powerful statement, isn't it? Is that it's one thing to have 1 million followers or 1 billion followers. It's another to have that many that are engaged, that are part of a community or part of a movement, or really seeing the value that a particular product, service, subscription brings. That's kind of, and I went, that's a pretty profound thought, because, in this world, it's like, how many likes have you got? How many clicks? How many downloads? Blah, blah, blah. But really, when you think about it from what you're talking about, and especially in an application process, you're talking about engaged people is really what you're
value added. Yeah, value added. So the way to think about it is aggregate value you deliver, which can be done with fewer people, but a lot of value. So a physician adds a lot of value to the world, but it's like limited to the number of people that come visit that doctor. But the value can be deep. They can be life-saving. So it is a choice, I want to say. You want to go broad or you want to go narrow. End of the day, what matters is that how much value you deliver. Is the end of the day, it's like, why do we do what we do? It's like, you got to feel good about it. So, and you can do it in both ways, and I have respect for both of them. I personally choose like adding value, real value, not followers. Means nothing really. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so what is a value? How can I make a lot of people's lives or business a tad bit better? A tiny bit, even a tiny bit. It's just as long as it is, they can put their finger on it. So that's sort of the way I think about it. I have another litmus test it's sort of maybe not even quite politically correct, but if you or your product cease to exist, how much, so it's the reverse of that, how much pain does it inflict on the world? Okay.
Mhm.
To give you an example, if Gmail goes down, okay, all of a sudden Twitter is going to blow up because that is actually a test, a good test. Okay. G Suite is adding a lot of value. It's like, imagine Google Gmail goes down. It's going to be like for a day, it's going to be like revolt. Twitter is going to explode and people will complain about it. What does that mean? That means that is actually silently adding a lot of value to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And use that test for what you do and your product. And if your product ceases to exist, how much vacuum are you creating in the world? And that's a good test. I'm not saying that is what should happen, but I'm saying it's a good test, mental exercise.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that, I mean, you can go to all sorts of things that you go, holy cow, if that was gone or that was gone. I mean, it's become part of just our own operating system. People,
Yes.
it's so when if it goes away, it really disrupts your operating system.
Yes.
So fascinating. So when you think about Alex, let's talk about a little bit of your journey to get here. I mean, you're a scientist. I mean,
I was a scientist.
you were.
My scientist friends don't even acknowledge me. They're like, you
Are you?
in like 20 years, you're no longer a scientist. Stop saying that. So I'm no longer a scientist.
So you would call yourself a recovering scientist? But
Former.
Let's talk about that journey, though. When you think about scientist aside, but where you've come to, as you said earlier, your parents weren't entrepreneurial. You came out of school. What was your journey early on? Were your parents just really supportive? How did you get on this entrepreneurial journey? Like, did you at some level, like I knew at a pretty young age that I was very entrepreneurial. Even when I had the only job I had back in the late 70s, it was literally, I knew that this was not the end game for me. But what was it for you? And I didn't come from entrepreneurial parents at all, although my dad really respected business owners. He himself just had a job, very kind of common blue collar kind of worker. What was your journey in that regard? How did you, like, when you look back on it, did you have some entrepreneurial spirit even at a younger age?
Interesting question. I want to say not the way you think, like a younger, like if you looked at me, if I were talking to you when I was a teenager, I was like a math competition, math and physics level. Like I was like all about science and math. And I wanted to grow up and become a scientist since I was 5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So physicist specifically. So my life journey was, the first half of my life journey was really that. It was like, I loved science. I loved math. I was competitive. I wanted to grow up like my role models were like Einstein, and it's like a completely different world I grew up in. And honestly, going back, I'm glad I lived that life because it gave me a specific. Let me actually back out a little bit. I think one of the reasons that a lot of entrepreneurs absolutely fail is because they are too money motivated. I'm not saying you shouldn't be money motivated, but they are too money motivated. And that is a hindrance on its own. So it's like essentially it kind of blinds you. And I wasn't like that. And I kind of grew up not really caring that much about being the richest person or whatever, or a scientist, or a businessman or what have you. I wanted to be a really good scientist, a really good physicist to be specific. And I'm glad that I had that phase because it kind of moderates your temperament as an entrepreneur. And And end of the day, if I tell you like, okay, so do I really like have like put entrepreneurs and business people in the highest regard and as scientists? I'm like, no, I actually love listening to science conferences and videos. I actually think they are smarter, and I put them on equal footing, maybe even put scientists in higher regard.
Yep.
So it's, I don't know, maybe I'm weird in that sense, but but I'm a little bit different in that sense. I know a lot of people grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, and I actually appreciate that. Hopefully my kids actually are that way. I wasn't that way.
Right. So when you think about your journey, I think it sounds like, NASA was a big job many years ago, got it. But at that point, was there a fork in the road moment for you? In other words, we have many well, I shouldn't say that. Often, I know for myself, I've had several fork in the road moments.
Yes.
Many of the entrepreneurial accidents, things that showed up, didn't have any kind of agenda around what was going on. The next thing you know, I'm facing this fork in the road moment, and I could go either way. And it's only in reflection you go, oh, well, it's a good thing I chose that fork in the road, that side of the road, or maybe I could have gone the other direction. But did you have a fork in the road moment when you were with NASA that kind of took you in this direction? Yeah.
Yes, I've been thinking about it for a while at that point, and I was actually getting my MBA at Berkeley at the same time, and there was a point, and MBA is also kind of like being in business school. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Maybe sort of had that impact as well.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm like, this is too much. Oh, what ifs? I'm gonna jump, and I literally quit everything. I had a small 401k. I cashed it all and paid the penalties and tax and whatever, and just started. And I was younger. I didn't have a family like I do now, and I had nothing to lose. And regret minimization, I always was a big believer in it. I'm like, I cannot live with the regret of not having tried.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally jumped. Like the ideas, like like I said, I started an not AI, app studio, widget. We built widgets. It was completely not even specific. I was like, I gotta do this thing, and I incorporated the company out of my bedroom in Berkeley. I never forget that moment. I didn't know anything about getting EIN number. I called IRS and got my EIN number and all that. Opened a checking account, closed out my 401k, figured out how to do that, paid a penalty, whatever came to me, I put in. And I just went at it, is believe it or not, dropped everything, commit to it. So that's sort of the thing. I wanted to do it. I was like, I was going to do this. I'm going to try it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try it. And that's essentially what I did without ever having done it before. So
you're going to own that future. So when you think about, what's going on in the world today, Alex, and, we talk about technology, talk about AI, as we sit here today, at the time of this recording, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen between Russia, Ukraine, NATO, China. I mean, it's just a freaking mess, and so much uncertainty out there, economically at a global macro level. How much does what's going on outside of the world? And I mean, you think about the escalation and the speed of which things have moved since, 2020, the magic, middle of March, 2020, the world changed, and it has changed forever by the looks of it. Mm-hmm. How do you see the uncertainty, I guess the confusion, the fear that people are living in? We're seeing it's more polarized, it's more divisive. Is that a perspective that you have or that you see? Or do you live in this world where, I'm aware of that's going on, but it doesn't really impact me? Like, where are you in that space, given how engaged in the world of technology you are and the impact that technology is having on the world and all that's going on?
Closer to the latter, but not, it's not going to impact me. It's like, I know it's going to impact me. I think we are going to see new ways of modern warfare that we have never witnessed before. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be potentially very dark days. I mean, think AI and robotics, what it can do to warfare. So I'm not under any illusion that it's not going to impact us. But again, bringing it to micro level, it's always like starts at macro, and you can stay macro all you want, but what does it mean at micro? So what can I do about it? Okay. So to me, it always comes down to that question. I like macro questions. You and I can talk about it forever. But I'm like, I really think here's another way to think about it. If you want a better world, ask people to think about what they can do at an individual level and have them be better at the very micro level. Does that make sense? So to me, we have, because of news media and all the things that are yelling at us on X and all that, it's easy to be sucked into this global trend of things that may go really wrong or things that are going good or whatever is the topic of the day. I think that has corrupted the brains of a whole generation of humans, unfortunately. I think that is a problem. People have become so macro and they pick size and they're like thinking about like global things that they forgot that as a species, as humanity, we act at a micro level. My actions plus a billion other people is what shapes the world. So it's like, I'm like, how about we kind of tone down macro and amp up micro and think of it as what action is it that I can do at an individual level that will either mitigate it or maybe contributes to it in a positive way, or maybe it's completely outside my control, but there's this other thing I can control. Let me focus on that. So it's like, I always in my brain, it's like, I can talk macro with anybody, anytime. It's like great dinner conversation, but it's like, what matters is micro. What do you do about it? So
I'm so aligned with that whole thought process. I mean, it goes back to, the fundamental Marcus Aurelius philosophy, or, his writings, which is, what can you control? So this is all great information. Macro, we know the globe is melting and worldly. We got all sorts of issues going on, and that's all great. It's great information. It's like right now in Canada and the US, they're talking about the housing crisis or the potential housing crisis or the real housing crisis. All good. Got it. Understood. We can only hear so many times about how shitty the economy is or how bad the housing market is. That's just information. Now, the question is, what are you doing with that information? Are you just looking at it, to your point, at a macro? I've always I got a fundamental philosophy around it. I'm going to gather information. I'm going to look at possibilities. I'm going to look at probabilities. And at some level, I'm going to create a thesis that says, okay, based on my understanding, based on the information I've gathered, the insights that I've gained, I am putting a plan together that is going to risk mitigate, or it's going to move me forward in a bigger way. But I'm actually, to your point, saying, I don't need more information. There's a quote I like to use, which is, if more information was the answer, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs, right?
Yes, exactly.
The reality of it is what are you going to do? And at some point, you have to, again, look at possibilities, look at probabilities, and then create a thesis, and then act on that thesis, and then be open to change it as you get more information, or as the world shifts or the information shifts. What's your thoughts on that kind of little?
I totally agree. It's like think of your own options at the micro level. What can you do about it? Can you do something about it? If you can't do something about it, maybe don't think about it. So
exactly. It is. I find it quite. I have to be careful because I do talking head stuff. I was given a joking handle a while back, which I disowned right away, which is the doom and gloomer boomer, because I look at a lot of research, economic research, and it's hard to find good news within it. But it's not intended to be bad news. It's intended, here's the data. Based on the data, you have to make decisions for you. And the decision that I make based on the data that I get or that I share is going to be maybe different than the decision that you make. But ultimately, it's not to spread bad news. It's just to say, well, right now, this is the data, and I could probably paint it with rose-colored glasses, but ultimately, it's just data. Let's
Yes.
take the emotion out of it. Let's look at the data and make a call. Any comments on that thought process?
I like that thought process a lot. That's my comment.
So the frustrating part that I find as we look at X and we look at whether it be legacy / mainstream media, whatever you can look at it, it is also ultimately a lot of information, but nobody's really providing, okay, well, what's the solution? What are, oh, well, let's let the government solve the problem. Okay, well, we know where that's going to go. So it really does mean that we have to kind of buckle down, make some decisions, take that information and move forward with it. And in the world of technology, we have no excuses. We really don't.
Yes.
I
totally agree. It's like essentially just look at it and decide whether you can do something about it. And you have every possible question answered, whatever you want to do, the know-how to do it is now available to you through AI. Mm-hmm. So it really comes down to good decision making at an individual level and not becoming emotionally too persuaded by one side of a macro argument or the other side.
Yeah, 100%. So, Alex, you've been very generous with your time. I appreciate that. Start to wind down a little bit, and then I always get into a whole bunch of other questions. But let's try and wind down a little bit. And I have a few what I call rapid fire questions, which are never really rapid fire, but we'll go down that path anyways. You ready?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite quote?
If you're not embarrassed by the first product you've launched too late.
That's brand new. I love that. That's great. Was there a book on your journey that had a huge impact on you and one that you think everybody should read?
The Art of War and Elon Musk's biography. You may hate him or like him. I happen to like him a lot. Mm-hmm. Read his biography. The man is efficient, and you want to study him.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'm a Elon fan. I don't agree with everything he does, but I still really respect and appreciate the difference that talk about a guy making a difference in the world. Hey,
exactly.
Technology, Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite movie? Do you have one?
Godfather.
Oh, gosh, that one hasn't come up for a long time. That's great. Favorite song, favorite genre of music, favorite band? Are you a music guy?
I'm not a music guy, but I listen to classic when I have to. I listen to Beethoven.
Right. I love writing to that classical music. It's the best thing in the world to write to. Favorite swear word?
F word.
Fuck it. Fuck this. Yeah, no, F-bombing all over. It's kind of my favorite thing to do in moments of time. That's for darn sure. If there is a God, what do you want God to say when you get to the gates?
You get to meet your dad now. That's like all I want.
Wow. You didn't have that opportunity growing up to...
No, I meet him again. I lost him last year. Yeah, meet him again.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love that thought process. It's fantastic. Final question today, Alex. What are you grateful for?
My kids. My 2 kids.
How old are your kids, by the way?
4 and 1.
4 and 1. What a fantastic ages. Oh my gosh. I got grandchildren 8 and 9. So yeah, I love it. So great. Well, I'm always grateful to have the opportunity on this show to meet some really cool people. And Alex, you qualify as a cool people in my world. And like you, I'm always grateful for family and the time that you gave us today. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.